My name is John Wallace. Welcome to Azusa Pacific University. This is our 119th year since a couple really courageous women founded us 119 years ago. Foster care children are looking to those of us gathered here today for help, finding forever families, creating pathways to school, assistance with paying for college, and this is why APU was eager to go on record in support of Senate Bill 940, which would enable young adults from the foster system to apply for, enroll in, and complete college. While extending Cal Grant is an important step towards solving this crisis, the solution involves more than financial aid. Colleges and universities in California must rethink their relationship with K-12. The districts and various county departments of child welfare to make every effort for the collaboration of this vulnerable population. And that is why today is so important, all of us in this room. We're grateful for the leadership of Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, Supervisor Kathryn Barger. Their commitment and vision make today possible, as does the day-to-day professionalism and passion of those who serve in DCFS as advocates for children in need. We're grateful, too, to have Bobby Cagle, Director of the Department of Children and Family Services, an integral part of this gathering. And I noticed Mayor Joe Rocha, who served in the Azusa schools and has a deep love for this population in the back of the room. Joe, it's always great to have you on campus. Welcome to APU. I'm looking forward to the conversations we will have today. It's my honor to turn this over to Congresswoman Napolitano.
Good morning. And thank you, President Wallace. It's a pleasure being here. This is something that I look forward to, coming back to the community and talking about things that are impactful to our communities. But first of all, I've got to thank my partner in crime, Supervisor Barger. She has been so responsive. I'm very thankful to her and first staff for grabbing onto the ideas of helping the community where help is needed that maybe somebody else just glossed over. We want to get into the trenches and make things happen so that the youth, the foster youth, have an idea of where to go, how to continue education, and bring in the partnerships of the schools. But thank you, Barbara Dickerson, my mental health person, who has been excellent in all of these problems that we're looking at. Let's begin the conversation to craft a framework to address the issues impacting our youth, especially the lack of collegiate participation in the youth. I think that is so important because if you don't reach out to them, they don't know how to access information and be able to become successful. As a young man was saying a little bit ago, he got turned down by a university, but when he found out what his status was, they accepted him, and so he's going to try real hard, right? Where are you? Daniel. The federal government, Washington, assigns dollars to states for foster youth, but we need to be able to find out where that money is going to. Work is needed at the federal level to redesign the funding structure so that prevention is also given to a top priority. Creating avenues for the youth and disseminating information at the K-12 schools too. As Mr. Mendoza was talking, his school has over 100 foster youth. How does he get that information to his class so that the youth can benefit from it? We know that for children in foster care, it's a defining experience in their lives. And we need to ensure they are provided emotional support. That's where I come in, mental health, for many challenges they may encounter. Today, that challenge is helping us be more intentional in providing services to foster youth so that we can truly change the trajectory of their life. I got new implants. Thank you for the time and participation today in addressing this critical discussion. And please pass the word on. We need to ensure that all the schools and others learn about what we're trying to do and become partners in this. We don't do it alone. Thank you very much.
First of all, I'm Kathryn Barger, LA County Supervisor, and it truly is an honor to be here. And for those of you who don't know, I started as a staffer with Mike Antonovich, and so to have the honor to work with someone like Grace Napolitano, And really, we both are rolling up our sleeves and we want to make a difference. And I think that's really what it's all about. And that's why we're all here today. And I also want to recognize my mayor, Glendora Mendel Thomas. Thank you for being here. I want to thank Azusa Pacific for having us here this morning to discuss something that's near to all of our hearts. And a special thank you to Dr. Duke. Dr. Duke, you are someone who came in to my life, not only when I was running, but even prior to that, and really educated me on the need to really do better at job and recruitment. So I want to thank you for the time you've taken to educate my office in terms of what we can do and how we can do it better. I also want to congratulate you on your recent adoption. You are someone who walks it, talks it, and I really am just excited for you and your family as it continues to grow. And we all know it's about education. The statistics are nothing short of pathetic. When I saw them, it turned my stomach. In California, approximately half of the students in foster care graduate from high school. Half of the students in foster care graduate from high school. Less than 9% actually attain a bachelor's degree. Half graduate and less than 9% get a bachelor's degree. These numbers are not surprising when we consider that the average foster youth experiences 3 moves in their year of placement alone. The disruption that they have beyond, that's no reflection of where the county stands, right? But kids coming into our foster system face trauma. To not have the stability of the education and being moved from school to school is disruptive. Each time they move homes, they usually move to their schools. Changing schools along with changing homes creates further upheaval for kids who have already experienced trauma and loss. They are losing trusted teachers, friends, and extracurricular activities. They are also burdened with the delays in enrollment, leading to a loss of critical classroom time. Addressing this issue seems like a no-brainer to me, as I told you. I mean, it does. It just seems like how difficult can this be? But recognizing that the board wasn't aware of this taking place, I introduced a motion to develop a program to keep kids in their school of origin, which was passed unanimously by our board. The Department of Children and Family Services, under the leadership of this amazing man, Bobby Cagle, who you will hear from. Bobby's been on the job for 6 months, but his vision to address what is going on in this county is amazing. And working with people like the Congresswoman and myself and the entire board, we are going to move mountains, especially given what you all are doing to invest in this as well. The Department of Children and Family Services is working with LA County Office of Education and the county's Education Coordinating Council to try to solve this complex issue by facilitating transportation options that can be flexible depending on the region the child is located and the needs of their caregiver. And I think it's important to point out that we empower the child to make the decision whether they want to stay in that school or not. Because some do not want to remain in the school, but we give them a voice, which they have not had. This is just one of the many initiatives over the past year we've taken to improve the desperately needed services for our foster youth. We are also supporting, and when I say we, collectively, the entire board, are also supporting state legislation to improve post-secondary achievement for foster youth by increasing the rate of financial aid awards, providing assistance with completing the necessary forms and documents, and increasing access to on-campus support. I watched my nephew fill out his applications. It literally takes a village. It is amazing. So those necessary tools are going to help us break down that barrier. And what I tell people is money should not prevent a child from attaining their goals. And college is not for everybody. But it's important to give our foster youth that choice and that option and let them make their own determination. We've also directed the CEO, our Chief Executive Office, to collaborate with county departments, partner agencies, and community-based organizations to improve access to programs and services to enrich the lives of transitional aged youth, to help them achieve successful self-sufficiency as adults. Our system of care must help foster youth meet 4 essential goals before they age out. They must achieve educational attainment. They should have stable employment. They should be in stable housing, which is truly a you got to be Hercules to make it happen. And they should have appropriate emotional and social connections to ensure their overall well-being. But as all of us here in this room know, educational attainment is principal among those goals because others are impossible without achieving an academic foundation. We should do better, we can do better, and we must do better. I want to thank you for being here this morning, and I want to let you know this is not just about being here at 9 a.m. to discuss this. This is going to take all of us working together, and we're going to have a few trips and a few oops. But I know that my appointee from LACO is here. Where are you, Doug? Doug Boyd? Doug Boyd is my appointee on the LA County Office of Education board. And we are in this, we are committed. And between Grace and I, we are going to move mountains, right? And make it happen. So again, I want to thank you. I want to thank Azusa Pacific. This is one of my favorite rooms. Your coffee is the best coffee I've ever had. Yeah, pass it on. And it is a pleasure and privilege to be here. Now I want to introduce you to someone who I am probably a groupie for, Bobby Cagle. Bobby Cagle came to LA County 6 months ago, is our new Director of Children and Family Services. This is someone who was part of the system, worked in the system, and now is working with LA County to reform the system. So with that, Bobby Cagle.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Supervisor Barger. And I also want to just begin by saying how much I appreciate the fact that Azusa Pacific has stepped forward to lead this conversation, because it really takes not just government, but it takes the community, it takes individuals to be able to really find solutions to the problems that we have. I also have to say that in the 30 years that I have been doing child welfare work, I've been to many meetings like this. I have never been to a meeting before where a congressperson showed up to have a conversation about this issue. And I think that says a whole lot for LA County, for Congresswoman Napolitano, for being here today. I truly was a part of the system. I was born into the foster care system in North Carolina nearly 52 years ago. And I was very lucky because early on, I had an amazing social worker that found a family for me that really put me at the center of their life, that loved me in every way possible. And although they were not educated people themselves, they very early on learned that education was the way out of poverty. And as long as I can remember, from the time I was old enough to have a conversation with them, our conversations revolved around where I was going to college. Not if I was going to college, but where. And for me, that made all the difference. It was never an option for me to think any other way. And I think, unfortunately, what children in our systems have is a lack of that person behind them to have that conversation, to encourage them to do things that they think they can't do. And so this kind of conversation is essential. We know the outcomes for kids in foster care if they don't have an adult attached to them to love and help them throughout their lives, are that they're undereducated, unemployed, incarcerated, or dead by the age of 25. That is the kind of poor outcomes that we're talking about. And I think it's up to all of us to really stand in that gap. Be that person that really says education is important. You know, I talked to my dad a few years ago, and I look back, and they really didn't have the resources to send me to college. But there was never a question about that. And I asked my dad, I said, you know, I worked really hard and won a scholarship, but if I hadn't won a scholarship, how are you going to send me to college? He said, you know, we never knew that, but I knew this: I would sell everything I owned in order to get you to college, because I'd seen what a difference it makes in people's lives, and I didn't want you to have to work as hard as I've worked. And so that's the kind of person that it takes to stand behind a kid. But also, I think sometimes it is the intention of the community that makes a difference. Kids knowing that you have people behind you that are willing to help you, that you have an institution like Azusa Pacific that is willing to hold a discussion around the issues about how we make this more possible for kids. And those steps alone, I think, are momentous for us. I talked to a young lady in Georgia. I spent a year working with a group of 41 students trying to help them graduate high school. And I was talking to a young lady one day, and she told me she was intending to drop out of school. And when I began to talk to her, she had straight A's, and she was a senior in high school. And I said, "Why do you want to drop out of school?" And she said, "Because it's really not important to anybody that I graduate. Nobody's ever said to me that it was important to them." And so we stood with her, we really supported her and tried to help her understand how important it was. And we were able to get her to graduate high school. And she went on to college, and I'm very hopeful that she's off doing amazing things right now. But to me, that said, we have kids out there that just need to know that we stand behind them, that we support them, and that education is important. If us having this meeting today sends that message to just one youth, I think we have accomplished our purpose. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Building sustainable cities and a sustainable future will need open dialogue among all branches of national, regional, and local government, and it will need the engagement of all stakeholders, including the private sector and civil society, and especially the poor and marginalized. This quote comes from Ban Ki-moon, former Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Bobby Duke, and Bobby is a very common name here this morning. Maybe the Bobbies will take on foster care here in Los Angeles County. But it is my pleasure as the Dean of the School of Theology and foster father here in Los Angeles County to introduce our most important guest we have this morning, Melissa Miramontes. George Rezo is going to come and stand next to her as she shares her story. So often in conversations like this, we can all focus and talk about what we're all doing without that moment where we say, how can we be of assistance to those who need our service the most? So, George and Melissa.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Melissa Miramontes, and I attend Citrus College. My major is sociology, and my minor is criminal justice. So something in working with youth. So I'm here today to talk about my journey in the foster care system. I was placed in foster care as a baby. I didn't know that until like 2 years ago. I was, like a drug baby? I didn't know until I read a paper myself from after my biological father passed away. And I was devastated because no one told me. And at the age of, I think it was 7, I was placed into the foster care system again. And it was because due to domestic violence, my parents were fighting. I seen things that I never thought I would see at such a young age. I seen drugs being used. I seen guns. I seen people fighting in my house, people coming in, and I was traumatized. I didn't know what was going on. And I only remember one time was someone giving me a bag saying, put everything you fit in there. So I did. And we were placed into foster care system. And that was the last time I seen my parents. I was placed into Victorville, and I only seen my social worker one time. And out of that time, I was going through a lot in the foster home I was placed in. My foster parent would give us pizza every day. Like, there was nothing else. She would give us just pizza. She differed from me and my sisters between the students, not students, but the kids she had and were already placed there. They got toys, we didn't. We had to share a 2-bedroom. And it was okay because I was with my sisters, but at the time my sisters were mad because how they treated us. And I was small, so I really didn't know. And we were placed into a school, and we were getting bullied because we were foster students or kids. And they would pick up the other kids that they had placed at their home, and they would make us walk home. And it was sad, like, why are you going to treat us like that? Like, are you doing it just for the money? So I was maybe around 8, and I knew I wanted to be a social worker. Like, I knew I wanted to help somebody, a kid, and make a positive impact in their life. And I moved out here after I graduated high school. And the only reason why I moved out here is because when I was adopted at the age of 9. I was thankfully adopted, forever grateful. And my parents, my adopted parents, which are my aunt and uncle, would tell me, you're not gonna graduate, you're not gonna graduate, you're not gonna graduate. That was end up like my dad or my biological mother. And I was like, you know what? No, I am gonna graduate. I'm gonna prove to you guys wrong. And I did. I graduated. I didn't walk with my class. I didn't, but I graduated. And I knew, thank you. And I moved out here to better my life and to go to school. And so I enrolled in Citrus, and it was maybe my second semester, and I seen an opening at the foster kinship. And I was literally every day bugging so I can get a job. Like, can I get in? Is there opening? Like, literally bugging. And she's like, okay, come back during the fall. So I started in the fall, and ever since then, I love the job. I mean, I know I'm a student worker, but I mean, for me to help somebody that was once in my position or homeless, I love it. I do. So I don't want to have kids of my own. I really hope to adopt somebody and be able to better someone's life. So, yeah. And thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. How old are you? Oh, I'm 19, gonna be 20 in November. Yeah.
I was in a meeting in this room yesterday to discuss how best to help college students identify and maximize their strengths. Today, we gather to discuss how to best maximize our collective strengths, our community assets, for the good of transitional-aged foster youth. We're now going to turn our attention to the various local programs and experts who will share briefly, let me stress that, for 4 minutes or so, who will share briefly what role they play in helping foster youth prepare and attend college. This will be followed by a time around your tables where you can discuss individually how your agency from wherever you are today, whether it be higher ed, K-12, the Department of Children and Family Services, group homes, we could go on because we really have a collective today. Different ways your organizational assets can help transitional age youth. I did want to pause briefly though and thank a special guest who invited me last Friday night to his mosque in Monrovia for the break fast. So Mohammed and I sat last Friday night with my sons, and Mohammed Bazik, if you don't know him, you have probably seen his story in the Los Angeles Times, February of 2017. His son Adam is at Citrus College, and he is local. He lives just a few blocks south of campus here. But Mohammed and I have shared many conversations together on how our various faith communities can come around the foster care system and how children are important to all of us. So Mohammed, thank you for being with us here today. Our panelists this morning, and this is the order they will present first, is Rochelle Tuzar. She's from the Los Angeles County Office of Education. She's the Program Director for Foster Youth Services. So our second panelist is Mark Rogers from the Bonita Unified School District, and he's the Executive Director of Specialized Student Services. Our third panelist is George Razzo from Citrus College. He is the Director of the Foster Kinship Education and Resource Program. So Nikita Bostic from Cal Poly Pomona, she is the coordinator of the Renaissance Scholars Program. So if you're not aware of Renaissance Scholars, Guardian Scholars, these various programs that are in our various, particularly state colleges and universities, it's something that I'm excited to hear the various opportunities here in East County. And then finally, Monica Rivas, who's the Assistant Regional Administrator at the Glendora DCFS office. So we will start with Rochelle. The mics are right next to you, and share 4 to 5 minutes about what in your span of care, what you do to help transitional age youth go to college.
All right, thank you. It's really an honor to be here with you today, and I am going to take just a few seconds of my 4 minutes to honor and acknowledge you, Melissa. I want to thank you for sharing your story, the courage that it takes to share your story. We are deeply appreciative of, and I just want you to know that you're making a significant difference already, but your future is very bright. And I want you to know also that all of us in this room support you. If you ever feel alone or scared or like it's too much, I want you to look around. Nobody in this room will forget you, and we support you. So thank you. We'll give her one more. I know you're timing me, Mark, but all right. So a brief overview of foster youth services from the Los Angeles County Office of Education. So what we are is we're a county-wide program who, what we do is we provide technical support and assistance and build the capacity of the 80 school districts that are within our jurisdiction. Okay, so there's 58 counties in California, but Los Angeles, we have the highest numbers of students in foster care, looking at about 18,000 students that need our attention. And so what we decided would be the most ideal thing to do is regionalize our approach. So what we've done is to provide capacity building and support to school districts to provide these services. We broke up the county into about 12 to 15 school districts connected to a local DCFS office with our partners in DCFS and also in probation to address these issues and really look at what do we need to do, what policies do we need to implement, what are the barriers, and how do we overcome the challenges to enrollment, things like credits for graduation, making sure that kids get what they need educationally. And so from a countywide perspective, we are looking at the systems that are in place and what the systems are doing and how the systems are talking to each other, because that ends up being a really important point right there. We work in our agencies and we do really well at what we do within our agency. But for this kind of work with students in foster care, they really need us to talk to each other. They really need us to break down those walls of communication, to share data, to really look at how we can work together. That is, and we all know it, the village approach. When we talk about collaboration, we're talking about creating villages. So with these regionalized approach, some of our team members lead these regions and some of our partners lead the regions, and I know several of you are in the room today. That's more of our systems work, but we do provide some direct services. Supervisor Barger mentioned our transportation pilot that we're doing in collaboration with DCFS, where we're providing transportation to those students to make sure that they stay in their school of origin, that we limit the amount of changes, because changing school is a difficult thing to do. If one of you even moved from one table to the next, it causes a huge disruption. But even if you change schools under the best of circumstances, it's very traumatizing. So we're looking at minimizing those school changes. And another direct service we provide is tutoring. We do this also in partnership. Thank you to our partners in DCFS who added money to this pot, because we provide tutoring services and pay for it, but DCFS saw the benefit and added to that pot of money. And last year, I'll give you a comparison. We tutored in 2017 school year, 2,000 children. This year, with the help of DCFS, we tutored 4,000 children, and mostly are high school transitioning to college. So getting them prepared for college and getting them ready for their next step. So that's a little bit about our program, and I'm gonna pass the mic to our other partners to share what they have.
Thanks, Rochelle. And I just wanted to also say I really appreciate the opportunity to be here speaking before this group and the efforts from a lot of organizations on behalf of foster youth in LA County and around the state. So Bonita Unified is a district of about 10,000 students. It's just a bit farther down the 210 freeway. The cities of San Dimas and Laverne. Our claim to fame is San Dimas High School is where Bill and Ted had their excellent adventure. So if you ever want to, Raging Waters, most people know that. But we're unusual in the size of the foster youth population that we serve because of the presence of several group homes within our boundaries. So we're a district of 10,000 that serves a foster youth population that would be more like a district of 40 or 50,000. So we're a bit unique in that sense. So we've been working very hard for the last few years on, and we've approached it in a few different ways in terms of transition age youth. We actually serve youth all the way from kindergartners through seniors, but a lot of our work has gone into high school age students. One is just doing absolutely everything within our power to increase the likelihood of every student graduating from high school. And when I say everything within our power, we often don't get to actually see them graduate. They might be with us for a period of time and then move on somewhere else or come to us late. And a lot of that has been around policies and procedures, partial credits and quick enrollment, and making sure they get the right classes and all of the things that go with that to really develop a gold standard for that kind of thing in our schools. So that's something we've been working on. We work a lot with County Office of Ed. We work quite a bit with a group of attorneys called the Alliance for Children's Rights, as well as DCFS. And Glendora, I think, is our regional office, so we know a lot of folks over there. Then the next thing we've done is really through partnerships. And for the last few years, in addition to working with partnerships like LACO and DCFS, have also worked with other districts. We're part of a regional learning network that is sponsored by the Alliance. There's 6 districts. A couple of our network buddies are in the back. But that has been so useful in terms of when we talk about that effort to make sure every foster youth graduates from high school, when you get multiple districts, especially like a regional collaborative, and we can do similar things, so you don't have to have that conversation anymore that's along the lines of, well, that's not how we do it, and that just takes more time and causes confusion and sets up yet another roadblock that we actually have some control over. So really trying to move that out in this regional concept, but also to impact LA County and even state of California in terms of training, influence, that sort of thing. So that's an effort we've really been privileged to be a part of for the last few years. And then really the most important work we do, and I'm going to embarrass a couple of people, they're going to be very angry at me, but tough, because the most important work that goes on in our district is student-by-student advocacy. Because several of the speakers who came up here talked about that village concept or what a family typically does for a foster youth. And I picture transition age youth, right? They're going from being a kid to being an adult, and there's this foundation that underlies that process, and family is a big part of that. And so what many of us are trying to do is fill in that foundation for students where maybe the parents aren't involved in their life or that kind of thing. And so that advocacy is so critical. And Mo and Tiffany are our 2 foster youth liaisons who work every day side by side with kids to accomplish that. And honestly, without that happening, the policy work, the procedures, the big picture stuff would kind of be a waste of time, because people need other people alongside them. And that's the only way to get it done. It's resource intensive, right? When I think about the amount of work I went into getting my own kids into college, and I only have 3 of them, and the time that went into that, we serve about 500 foster youth a year, several hundred of them in high school. So that's been a big emphasis for us, is that transition and the time and the work it takes to really do it well.
Good morning, everybody. My name is George Razzo, and I'm with Citrus College. I oversee the Foster Kinship Program and also our Guardian Scholars Program as well. I do also want to say thank you to Melissa. We've been prepping for this like a couple weeks. And Melissa, actually, she's one of our student workers that works in our department, and she's helped a lot with any presentations we have or events we go. She's a trooper. She's like, I'm nervous, but I'll do it. And then, so she's great. You know, she's an amazing young lady, and we're really honored and glad we have her in our department. So thank you, Melissa, for everything you do and all your support. So what we do at the Guardian Scholars Program is we work with foster youth. We want to make sure that our youth who come into our programs and our college succeed. You know, not just come and they're in college, but as we know, once you're in college, navigating the college system can be pretty difficult. You know, deadlines for financial aid, registration, counseling services, all those services that are available for our youth, sometimes they aren't aware of that. So what we do is, prior to them coming to our campus, we try to work really hard with our local high schools, our LACO as well, our school liaisons, and try to identify those youth who are actually going to be coming into Citrus College. That way, when they do arrive to Citrus College, they come to our campus, we know who they are, we walk them through what our program offers. And some of the things we offer at the Guardian Scholars Program is We have a computer lab. Our students can come and access a computer lab from 7:30 in the morning till 5 p.m. And they have free Wi-Fi, free internet. They can use the printers, do research, do their papers, their homework. We also provide them with a lot of supplies. Any supplies they need, books, papers, pens, we want to make sure that there's no barriers when it comes to their academics. Anything they need, we will try to get that for them. We also provide breakfast for them, lunch, there's always food. Our students do get hungry, so we want to make sure that we feed our students. Exactly, and we also have a counselor who's designated to our department who is there on Wednesdays. Students can just drop in, meet with her, and talk about some of the challenges they're having in classes or assistance with registration, whatever they need, our counselor is there to help them. Like I said, we also like to hire within our foster youth system. So like Melissa was persistent with trying to get a job with our department, we want to make sure that the students we're servicing are also being greeted and attended by their same peers as well. So we try our best to hire our foster youth in our department, which we do, and they're very helpful. They greet the students when they walk in, the students feel happy, and they understand them, they relate to them. And that's what we want. We want to make sure that they're comfortable in our department. We also, we offer as well workshops for financial aid. Whenever there's financial aid deadlines are coming up, we want to make sure we're offering workshops for our students, because sometimes, as we know, our students don't access a Chafee grant, or other grants that are available for them. So we want to make sure we provide them with that. We partner with our financial aid office. And I believe we have about 3 to 4 workshops throughout the year and make sure we capture all the foster youth that are coming to our campus, and even those that are not. We want to make sure that we extend that assistance to everybody. Like I said, we do partner with the high schools. We make sure we provide flyers. We invite everybody in the community to come out to our workshops that need assistance, so our students are able to tap into that. Another program that I oversee is the Foster Kinship Education Program. We provide foster care resource parents classes that vary in different topics. They can be in behavior management, working with the system, education. It just varies, So most of our, it's really important that we offer those classes to our foster resource parents because they're working with our youth. So we want to make sure that any classes or topics that are out there that are in need for our youth, that we're covering as well during our classes. We also offer resources for scholarships for our youth as well. We make sure that we partner with any community members out there. For example, John Burning Foundation, United Friends of the Children. We make sure that our youth are well connected, because as we know, when they're on campus or they come to college, it's not just about, here you go, you're on your own. We gotta help our students, especially our foster youth. They need more support. They've been through a lot. They've been through many challenges. And as we know, sometimes as adults, it's hard for us to even navigate the system ourselves, and let alone our youth as well. So we wanna make sure that we're there helping them and literally not holding their hands, but holding their hands and walking them through any journey that they're taking. So that's a little bit about Citrus College and the services we offer. Thank you for having me here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Makeda Bostic. I'm the coordinator of our Renaissance Scholars Program at Cal Poly Pomona. Similar to our colleague from Citrus, I oversee our foster youth program. Our program is called Renaissance Scholars. I'm also an alumni of CARE, so thank you, Melissa, so much for sharing your story. And it's great to hear that there are some folks of CARE in here in this room, movers and shakers. So our program is very similar to Citrus's program. We've been around for 16 years. As of to date, we have 80 alumni that have graduated from our program, which is awesome considering the statistics for foster youth graduating from college. And we, at max, serve 50 students. We have a variety of workshops and different components that are linked into our program that help our students to succeed. We are a program and not a center, so we really try to engage our students in that two-way partnership. We do have standards and expectations, and it can seem like a challenge initially when dealing with our foster youth population, just because they have had so many broken relationships, but in the way that we create our program, we really try to be a family unit and a community. As you know, as he shared earlier, it is very hard to navigate college, and with our foster youth, we really try to engage them fully and get them connected into our program. We do have peer mentors that are upperclassmen students that work with our incoming freshmen and our incoming transfers. We do take transfers as well, so we try to partner with our community colleges in the local area. We're in Pomona, but we're right on the edge of LA County, so a lot of our students are from LA County. About 60% of our students are LA County students from high school or community colleges in the local area. We're trying to kind of get more out to the San Bernardino area as well. As far as some highlights for our program, we do make sure our students get access to priority registration. We also make sure our students have access to year-round housing. Our campus is one of the few that does not close the doors during the long weekends, during the holidays, or anything like that. So we work very closely with our partners on campus to make sure our students have housing. Those basic needs are super important. So of course, housing, food, priority registration, access to getting books and support. We have a dedicated staff of myself and one other full-time person, and so my counterpart is our educational counselor, and so she works with our students fully to engage them around academic advising. She starts with them their freshman year or their first year as a transfer all the way to graduation. So it is, like I said, a partnership. Some of our students have been at Cal Poly for 9 years, and we're working with them through that process until graduation. Our graduation rates are actually higher than Cal Poly Pomona's graduation rates, which is awesome. It's one of the things we try to put out there, of course, with the approval of our president, our campus president. Yes, and she's definitely a big supporter. Our campus president currently is Dr. Soraya Kohli, and she's a big supporter, and our previous president was a huge supporter of our program. And when our program first started, he was definitely very much one of the supporters that took our students under his wing and supported them throughout their time at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm trying to think of anything different, but we do provide a lot of similar services to Citrus. We definitely want to, connect. I did bring fact sheets and my business cards just to make sure to spread the word. We're always looking to bring in new students, and we realize that they have so many different choices, and we're lucky that all the 23 CSUs in the state of California have foster youth programs. We're one of the oldest ones, so we like to share that, and we're very comprehensive as well. But thank you so much for letting me be here today.
Hi, my name is Monica Rivas, and I actually represent the Glendora DCFS office, which is in this wonderful city. I would like to highlight some of the programs that the Department of Children and Family Services is currently heading in trying to address this core issue, and is really doing an amazing job, I have to say, in trying to really bring the community together to become one family. Just as the approach that we use in the Glendora office is, we invite you to our home, but with the hopes that you join our family, not just visit our home. And that is the approach that I believe the Department of Children and Family Services really takes on when we're addressing the needs of meeting and helping and supporting our foster youth. We have a Department Education section, which works closely with the 80 school districts in our county. They work closely with community agencies to jointly address the educational needs and enhance learning opportunities and improve academic outcomes for foster youth. It's a great opportunity that I've been privileged to be part of, working with Rochelle and Mark and the wonderful ladies, Tiffany and Mo. Thank you really from the bottom of my heart. You guys do an amazing job in Bonita Unified School District. We also have education consultants. We're very privileged as a county to be able to have in-house ed consultants that are able to sit with the social workers, attend IEPs, and really advocate for the needs of foster kids. from every aspect that you could imagine, from dealing with a suspension to recuperating credits, to really making sure that our foster youth are on track to graduate and meet their educational goals. We also have an independent living program, which is really targeted and focused in college preparation. It's really to provide housing, financial assistance, education and employment services to current foster youth as well as probation youth. For many that don't know, a lot of our kids will bounce from one system to another. So at the end of the day, they're all our children. And we really take pride in making sure that we meet all the needs of any child that comes in contact with DCFS. I think it's also very important to highlight a board motion that was authored by Board Supervisor Kathryn Barger. Thank you so much. The transportation to school of origin. For many of you that don't know what this is about, this is the opportunity that really allows children to stay connected to their own communities. They may not have the option to stay at home with their parents, but this motion was really intended to not only support their community, their what is normal to them, the streets that they're familiar with, their friends from school, the teachers whom they've made connections with, but to really embrace their educational pathway. We know that without education, in many instances, the outcomes for our foster youth are going to be detrimental. They're going to be, they're going to end up falling into the statistical arena that too often it becomes part of the work that we do. But with this motion, the intention is really to, implement best interest determination protocols between school districts and child welfare. We really want to work, and it's important to work closely with our continued partners of education to see how together we could ensure that kids, despite of being moved from one city and placed in another city, have the option and the choice to be able to attend their school of origin, to ensure that there's no interruptions, but to support a continuum of care. We talk about continuum of care, but sometimes we tend to leave out aspects that are very crucial in the process of meeting the needs of our kids, whether that be emotionally, physically, or mentally. So thank you so much, Kathryn Barger, for doing that, for being that force. Part of that also includes a transportation pilot that we currently have between DCFS and many LAUSD and the Los Angeles County of Education to provide short-term immediate transportation to school of origin until districts arrange a means of long-term transportation for our kids. Again, one of the things that we hear time after time from our foster kids is, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. I had a program, I had an event coming up in school. Am I able to come back? And it becomes part of what we talk about, secondary trauma for our kids. Not only are they being forced to be moved out of their home because of safety issues, but now also the fact that the relationships that they're connected or that they have are being severed. So we hope that with this motion, we're able to support the work that we do, support the kids that we service, and promote a well-being, which involves really the community approach. Like I said, from our end at the Glendora DCFS office, we're very privileged to have, the proximity of two higher educational institutions so close by, which has allowed us to partner in many different levels. With Citrus College, we hold our MAP Fest every year. This is our third annual year that we're having. And MAP stands for Making a Plan with Purpose. And that's really to bring our foster youth between 17 and 21 onto a college setting to be able to experience that there's nothing frightening, there's nothing scary about college, but it's really continued education. With APU, we're very privileged to be partnered with the E-Service Learning Center, which really allows current APU students to connect with our teen club foster youth and engage in programs and projects, and more than anything, for them to be connected to a APU student and see that they're no different, that it could be them, that they could also be the person that comes back and engages with the community to meet a bigger purpose. So we're very privileged to be here. We look for opportunities to continue engaging, to continue partnering. This work is never ending, and we are not ready to give up either.
Just to give you some kind of statistics to get your minds around, nationwide there are about 20,000 foster youth annually that turn 18. This number sounds extremely overwhelming. But if we localize it as, say, just the Glendora DCFS office, and these numbers are a few months old from some data I was able to gather, but for the Glendora office, there are around 350 14 to 17-year-old youth in care. There are about 200 youth that are 18 years and older. So I can get my mind around 200 or 300 youth. It's hard to get your mind around 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 as it goes out. So there are still large numbers, but with a concerted effort, we can help 30, 40, 50 of these youth prepare, apply, and complete college. We just heard all the different sectors of our local community, whether it be K-12, whether it be community college, four-year traditional research universities, LA County of Education, of all these different entities working together. Around your tables in just a moment, we're going to give you about 18 minutes. How's that for precise? About 18 minutes to walk through these questions. And you have on your table one piece of paper, if you can ask someone to be a scribe, to just jot down different notes here so that we can gather and get a sense of the room and get a sense of what is already happening, what could be happening, and where are some of the barriers. A few years ago, we tried a pilot program with the Azusa Unified School District, APU, and DCFS, where we tried to highlight about 15 to 20 AUSD 16 to 18-year-old foster youth to come to APU, meet with financial aid counselors, and then go to a football game. Fantastic idea, until I had to call the NCAA to get permission to do it. That's when I realized so many of these things are out there because it had to make sure we weren't looking like we were recruiting athletes in back channels, which is one of those things I would have never thought about. But from all of our different perspectives, there are things out there that we don't know about until we actually start walking and then realize there's barriers. We will hit barriers, but I feel that we can get through those barriers together. So let's spend about 15 to 18 minutes. Introduce yourselves, where you're coming from, what sector you're there to help foster youth, and then work through those questions. So give yourself a few minutes for each question to talk about those at your tables. When we first started planning this event, we gave ourselves an hour and a half from once the program started, and we kept saying there's no way we can get it done in an hour and a half, but we also realized that everyone in this room is very busy, and you have many things you have to go to from here, so we wanted to be very timely on that. But we did want to spend just 5 minutes coming around to each table, having one person from the table, maybe the scribe, share what was the maybe biggest aha moment. What was one thing that, as you were talking, you focused on the most? So I will start with our table up here. As we were discussing, we realized, because we were focused a little bit more on the community college focus, is issues of housing. So opportunities for collaboration. We've got to figure out how, working with local city and business communities, we can figure out this housing issue. We have heard that there are students at Citrus College that are living in their cars or couch surfing. That's something we have got to figure out, because their academics will suffer if they are not able to have consistent housing. So that was one of ours. This is an opportunity for collaboration that will take us all working together.
I am the coordinator of psychological services at Rio Hondo College. And we also talked about economic stability for our transitional age youth. So once they are in college, right, working on that degree, the economic stability, they're couch surfing, they're homeless, they're hungry, and we have many homeless students. We have many students couch surfing, sleeping in parks, sleeping on the campus. So that's an issue that is a huge gap for us. It's a crisis.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm Helen Berberian, Deputy Director at DCFS. One of my areas of purview is education. And my greatest aha moment this morning was speaking to our great community partners here about how to collaborate better on information sharing, about when an IEP, an individualized education planning process, begins in one school district but needs to finish in another. and how to actually convey that information from one school district to the other. So I'm going to be working very closely with my friend Rochelle Tuzard in Laco. Oh, there she is. And also my other friend Stephanie Gluckman in the County Office of Education Coordinating Council on how to make that happen as quickly and seamlessly as possible. That was a great aha, and thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lori Collier. I'm with the Opportunity Youth Collaborative and the Alliance for Children's Rights. And our table actually echoed the same conversation that Helen's table had, which is about IEPs that start in one school area, and then it seems like it should be an easy transfer over to the school district, but it then gets difficult because there's not enough information there. And to comply with the law, they have to enroll, but they don't know what to enroll the young person in because the information's missing as a service gap. The other piece we talked about is mental health services that youth need. Often lagging. So when the trauma happens at a young age and it's not addressed, as youth progress in their education, it becomes worse and worse for them to cope because they don't have the skills. So making sure that there's resources aligned to have the healing start at a younger age, because that's a gap that's happening because when youth get to high school, they don't feel motivated, they don't feel connected, they feel like, what's the point? And that's when they start spiraling out. And the last thing we talked about that was another piece was starting intensive case management in foster homes. To avoid youth moving from placement to placement, if we invest in making sure youth stay in a foster home or in a kinship home on the front end, which may cost more money, but you could also counterbalance that with like, what does the cost of incarceration? And so how do we make a commitment to keep youth in their family to avoid the placement to placement on the front end, which may cost a lot of money today, but we could save model money in the future. And we talked about San Francisco doing that model with their Housing First when they did the cost analysis. So that was our table discussion.
Hello, my name is Daniel Bravo. I'll be becoming an APU student and Citrus enrollment. One of the major things we talked about was transportation. We hit twice on it. One about it originating in the school district, that districts, provide the transportation, but extending that on to even community college and, going on past, high school to extend those services to the students, because it's very hard when a student goes to a 4-year and their housing, it may be there and they have the dorm room, but for those students who go to the community colleges, they don't have housing or transportation, and it's kind of hard, and it makes it hard for the students to engage into these programs and want to even try. So transportation was a big deal at this table. We talked a lot more, but it was about just transportation in general, of how to engage the students and how to put more funding towards it so students can have transportation onwards after high school.
Hi, good morning. Juan Hernandez with the LA Compact. So at our table, we had a lot of rich discussion about the fact that there really is no shortage of services. It's the difficulty of actually connecting across those services to really scale and provide coverage across the county. So some of our ideas in terms of what those challenges might be to replicating or scaling or connecting services are that often partners who are working in different sectors don't have enough information or knowledge of what their counterparts might be doing, whether it's a counterpart in K-12 or higher ed or within DCFS. Sometimes there's ambiguity about who has jurisdiction or primary jurisdiction. And then with that comes not knowing who's on first for a particular type of issue. Beyond that, though, we also thought that there might be some challenges inadvertently created by funding streams, particularly with private funding, where sometimes agencies are positioned to be competitors versus collaborators. And then on the piece about information sharing and data, I think we could benefit from more guidance about what type of information can we share, how do we navigate different privacy laws, whether it's HIPAA or FERPA, and what is the difference between what is actually legally required and what providers' perceptions of the law might be, because our sense is that we might actually be able to exchange more information, share more information with other providers than we are currently doing, because we just don't know and we are fearful about maybe facing some legal ramifications. And I think we had a lot of other good ideas with respect to how this works. Sometimes maybe it does need to be really localized because it depends on deep relationship building. and really connecting providers. And so it can be difficult to take something that might work well here with the network of individuals here in the East San Gabriel Valley and try to reproduce that in a different context.
We echo the sentiments of the previous tables, and we don't want to duplicate. So we'll share one of our aha moments, and it was actually inspired by your speech today, Mr. Cagle, about how your family talked about college at an early age, and it was never a question of what you're not going to do. So we talked about one of the gaps may be that the talk about attending college and access to college may be starting a little late in the game. And that our opportunity, we saw the fourth graders out here, and we said that's where we need to be. With the average age of a child in foster care is age 9. We need to talk about the college earlier, so that message is heard throughout their life, at least a couple moments, that the importance of education, so that we're not waiting till high school to figure this out. And then maybe they don't want to go to college because no one ever talked to them about it. So that's one of the gaps we talked about. How do we address that part of it? Yes, and the parents. Exactly, the parents, the caregivers, maybe they didn't attend college, so there's no model for what that looks like. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Armando Bustos, Project Director for the Trio Upward Bound programs here at APU. I'm housed in the Undergraduate Academic Success Center. So we exactly had that conversation is how do we allocate or how do we connect students directly to the resource? And so one of those conversations really was how do we inform maybe foster care providers with that information they need to start those conversations, and how do we really inform maybe foster care providers on a wide scale, newsletter, emails, something along those sorts to really make sure that they're all getting appropriate information and accurate information to ensure that that is, again, disseminated to the students accordingly. So thank you.
So good morning. I'm Barbara Dickerson. I'm with the Congresswoman Napolitano's office. And we had similar conversations and similar things. The one thing that the president of APU mentioned was that the services that the universities and colleges are in their strategic plan for the success of first-generation students mirror the kind of strategies that we need to employ for our foster youth. So that was probably the one thing that we haven't heard yet this morning. Thank you.
Well, I think this morning has been a very rich conversation. It's the beginning of a conversation. We out here in East San Gabriel Valley can sometimes feel disconnected from the centers of power that are in downtown Los Angeles. And I know through our partnerships with some local faith communities here in the Glendora area, we had a great volunteer program set up for the Glendora office, and they said, this is fantastic, wonderful, but you have to come down to downtown to get fingerprinted Monday to Friday during business hours. And I said, you just killed our program because there's no way you can get people here down to LA during business hours Monday to Friday. But the county responded and brought out all their equipment to us that we know that we've done. So it's one of those ones that with creative ideas, we can all work together. I'd like to thank again all the panelists. I'd like to thank Director Cagle for being here today. I'd like to especially thank Congresswoman Napolitano and Supervisor Barger for really being the spearhead for all of this. On the tables, you see the special thanks, but because food, for many of us, is one of the highest goals that we can have, and we heard about food insecurity this morning. I would like to thank the America's Christian Credit Union, ACC&U, for providing the breakfast this morning for all of us to enjoy. As a person in academic administration here at APU, but more importantly as a foster father, thank you for being here today and for helping begin this vision of what we can do together collaboratively for the good of transitional age youth. So continue the conversation, switch business cards, and let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for being here.